combating nutrition disinformation and general bull. It's Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another Instagram Live, and we are here on this afternoon, ready to give you another episode of Jimmy Rants. If you're brand new to watching this, we're here on Instagram Live, so go follow me on Instagram if you don't already. At Livin' Low Carb Man on Instagram is where you can find me. And if you're on there and you see that I pop on with a video, I do those twice a day, generally once in the morning, once in the afternoon, Eastern time, and I go on a rant about some topic in the world of nutritional health and ketogenic diets, which I'm all about. So go follow me on Instagram at Livin' Low Carb Man, but you can go to JimmyRants.com because on Instagram you can see it live, you can watch the replay for 24 hours, but then the video disappears. That's when you can go watch it on YouTube, and we have a link right there at JimmyRants.com for the YouTube, and coming very soon we'll have a podcast with all of the best of these rants. So today's Jimmy Rants topic is all about the carnivore diet. I've been getting so many messages from people about what I think about the carnivore diet. And there's this meme out there that I'm against it. Let me be loud, let me be proud, let me be clear. I think the carnivore diet's pretty darn awesome. I think you can be generally healthy by cutting out all carbohydrates and sticking with only fatty meats. Now that's the caveat. If you're gonna do a carnivore diet, it needs to be done with fatty meats. Don't use chicken breasts and make that your source of meat. I did an experiment earlier this year doing a high protein carnivore diet. So it's not the carnivore diet as you hear about online. It was really kind of a protein sparing modified fast just to see what effect high doses of protein would do in basically like a 3-to-1 protein to fat ratio. And I wanted to see how that would work. And so it ain't good, a very high protein diet. But if you do a carnivore diet and it's higher in fat, so generally like ribeye steak, or if you're adding in like pork belly and some of the fattier cuts of meats, I think a carnivore diet could probably be pretty good. And if you do it with the high fat, the carbohydrate restriction alone, a lot of people think that's what gives you ketosis. Not always. So I think the key element in making a carnivore diet work and work well for you to be in a ketogenic state is not just the elimination of the carbohydrate, but you also have to make sure you don't eat too much protein. So if you eat too much protein, that's still problematic. Now, obviously, when you eat a carnivore diet, you're eating all meat basically as your sustenance. Some people like to add in a few eggs, but again, your primary macronutrient, according to calories, by percentage of calories, will still be fat. And fat generally on a carnivore diet can be upwards of about 70% of your total caloric intake. And so if fat is 70% of your caloric intake, you're basically eating no carbs. That means you're going to get about 30% of your calories coming from protein. And some people scoff at that. Well, you can't be ketogenic if you're having that much protein. Well, I think if you're eliminating carbohydrates altogether, which is what you do on a carnivore diet, and you're eating that significant amount of fat that comes with the steak, maybe you add a pat of butter on top for flavor, that I think you could probably be very successful at getting into a state of nutritional ketosis if you eat a carnivore diet like that. So what's the deal with the carnivore diet, and is it keto? The deal is it's pretty darn healthy for you because you're eliminating the very things that we know instigate blood sugar and insulin response. You're also lowering inflammation levels, and you're putting your body into a state of ketosis. None of those things are a bad thing. So what are my concerns about a carnivore diet? Well, a lot of it has to do with gut health. So we don't know the impact that eating an all-meat diet will have on the gut microbiome. Now, gut microbiome research is still in its very infancy, so we really don't know anything regarding that. And so what we do know so far, though, is that the gut microbiome do like to feed on green leafy vegetables. And so if you're not feeding your body any vegetables or carbohydrates at all, how are you feeding the good microbiome? So that's one concern. And plus, we know the health promoting effects of consuming probiotic-based foods like sauerkraut and kvass and all of those kinds of things. Those are all positive things for your gut health, for your digestion. So if you're not eating those, what are the ramifications of that when you're eating carnivore? Now, obviously, if you're eating carnivore and it's like mostly carnivore and you add in a little bit of these probiotic foods and a little bit of green leafy vegetables, maybe it's pretty good. But I think the jury's still out on that. And so that's one thing that would cause me to be very skeptical, is how do you take care of the gut microbiome on that. Plus, the other thing that comes into play with a carnivore diet that might be a challenge is the boredom factor. Now, some people, they like structure. They could eat the same thing over and over again every single day, like ribeye steaks, like my friend Dr. Sean Baker does, and be just perfectly happy with doing that. Not everybody is perfectly happy with doing that. They want the variety. They want to be able to have a mix of foods. And even to that end, I'm concerned, can you develop some kind of an allergy to just eating meat? I found that when I had just had eggs, and I was including those in my diet, you might hear my chickens in the background from time to time. I wonder how eating those eggs every day for a period of time actually gave me a huge sensitivity to eggs. When I did a food sensitivity test, I was off the charts high for eggs, both the yolks and the whites. So it begs the question, can you get a food sensitivity to just eating meat over a period of time? So if you are on the carnivore diet and you're doing it with ample amounts of fat in the meats, you're not doing lean meats, and you're maybe adding a pat of butter or whatever, and that's what's working for you, kudos to you. Congratulations. I'm a big fan of people finding what works for them. I think it's probably better than most things that are out there. I'll tell you, my diet tends to be mostly carnivore for most of the time. I would say probably 90 to 95% of my diet is carnivorous. I love animal-based foods, and I think they can be a healthy part of your life if you choose to eat them. And I usually eat very minimal vegetables because my carb tolerance level is so low. So what are my thoughts on and what's the deal with the carnivore diet? It's pretty darn good. Is it keto in and of itself? Not necessarily, unless you're adding in enough fat from the fattier steaks and from the fat that you add to whatever meats that you're consuming. So if you're doing it that way and you're getting into a state of nutritional ketosis and you're getting all the benefits that come from that, I think the carnivore diet is the bee's knees and can be a very healthy part of your life. All right, let's see what you guys have to say about my Jimmy Rants today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks for being here. Hello, hello. Hello, San Ketonio Mama. Yay, this makes my kind of carnivore heart very happy. Yeah, I think a lot of us in the keto world, if you polled most of the leaders in the keto community, most of us probably do eat a mostly carnivorous diet. At least 80 to 85% for most people of their diets, probably animal-based foods. Not everybody, but a good number of them. So we're talking about what the deal is with the carnivore diet and whether it's keto or not. So feel free to chime in if you got anything to say. That's the way I eat too, says my low-carb path. Hello, Kat. Yeah, I think because of the drasticness on the surface value of a carnivore diet, people think, oh my gosh, all you eat is meat. That does not sound desirable at all. Aren't you worried about the fat? And of course, if you get over the fat aspect of it, Then what's the issue? Boredom. Then what's the issue? I don't know what the other issues would be other than the things I've already expressed with perhaps the gut health concerns. I'm pretty much keto carnivore, Kat says, because I'm so insulin resistant. Yeah, and that's a big reason why a lot of people do it is insulin resistance, and they can't have a whole lot of carbohydrates anyway. So one of the byproducts of if you can't eat carbs, guess what? What's left? Fat and protein. What's the best sources of fat and protein? Animal-based foods, carnivore. Balance, Nourish, Heal says, I feel so much better when I eat only meat, but I absolutely love vegetables. I wish my body would cooperate with me. And I don't think there's any harm per se in eating certain kinds of vegetables. Like I said earlier, I think the fermented vegetables would be a fabulous addition to your diet. There's certainly no harm that comes from having a little bit of sauerkraut with your steak, a little bit of maybe kimchi or beet kvass or something like that. Those things are health promoting, and especially gut health promoting. And so if we're looking at ways to maximize our health, and a carnivore diet is the way you're choosing to go, if you could add in kind of like what my Keto Talk co-host and friend Dr. Will Cole wrote in Ketotarian, he says, try to eat a mostly plant-based diet. Well, it's the mostly. He wants them to eat some eggs, for example, or fish, so they can get the complete proteins. So I'm wondering if the mostly carnivore, the exception for those of us that choose to eat a mostly carnivorous diet, is adding in a little bit of fermented vegetables. Is that the equivalent of the eggs that Will uses in his book? Maybe. We'll see. I know Dr. Sean Baker is coming out with a great book all about this topic next year. It's going to be called The Carnivore Diet. So Dr. Sean Baker, if you're not following him here on Instagram, go check him out and look for his book when it comes out next year. I forgot to add, vegetables don't make me feel good, Balance, Nourish, Heal says. And that's another telltale sign as to what pushes a lot of people to a carnivorous diet, a carnivore diet, is they don't respond well to vegetables. And of course, to the mainstream public, they can't wrap their head around that because we've been told our entire lives, eat fruits and vegetables, fruits and vegetables, fruits and vegetables. And that is like the basis of a healthy diet. And so now you're suddenly telling people, oh, have no fruits and vegetables and just eat meat. And they can't wrap their heads around that because they've heard meat is unhealthy, especially red meat and all the other concerns. Would dill pickles be considered fermented vegetables? Thank you, KNeil409, for that. No, not the ones that you find on the middle aisles. Fermented vegetables, if you don't ferment them yourself in your home, you need to find them in the refrigerated section. So if you go to Costco or Sam's Club or Walmart or your local grocery store and you look at dill pickles there on the shelf, if they're in a middle aisle and not refrigerated, all the healthy fermentation that would take place in those cucumbers that would make them into pickles, they're all died. They're all killed off. So no, they would not qualify. But they do make ones. I know in Whole Foods, Christine and I have found this company called Bubby's. Bubby's is a fermented glass jar food maker, and they have sauerkraut that we like to use, and they also have fermented, I think they're sweet and whatever that pickle is, the sweet pickle. The bread and butter pickles, that's what I was thinking of, so. Marion Johnson 677 says about eggs and allergy or intolerance. Sulfuric in eggs was a significant issue for me when I was eating heaps of them. Ease back, I reduced the sulfur reaction. So yeah, what I did was I went off of them for 6 months completely, and now I have them at most about every 3 days, and I have no problems whatsoever. Kat says, I make my own sauerkraut and kimchi, so delicious. And in our new book, Real Food Keto, we have a recipe in there for how you can make a lot of these fermented foods, including fermented and low sugar kombucha, which a lot of low carb keto people avoid. because of the sugar content in so many of them. But we have a great recipe that Maria Emmerich helped us to develop. So go check that out. We also have a sauerkraut recipe in there, and lots of great fermented food. So the bottom line in this Jimmy Rants, what's the deal with the carnivore diet, and is it keto? I think keto, a carnivore diet can be healthy as long as it's high in fat, which if you're using the fattier cuts of meats, then that should not be a problem. And you're eliminating carbohydrates, so you should not be stoking inflammation and insulin and blood sugar. So rock on with your keto carnivore diet. Stop thinking that I'm against it. I am not. I'm very much in favor of anything that gets people off of crappy garbage, and carnivore is about the ultimate diet for getting off of crappy garbage. All right, guys, that's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. As always, head on over to jimmyrants.com, and you can see all of the past videos, the rants that I've done there on YouTube. Coming soon, we're going to have snippet podcasts for you to enjoy on a daily basis on iTunes. Again, that'll be at jimmyrants.com. And then, of course, here, if you're watching me live on Instagram, thanks for being here live. We'd love to have more of you that are finding me on YouTube. Come on over at Living Low Carb Man on Instagram, and you can watch in the mornings. I usually try to go about like 8:30-ish in the morning and about 4:30-ish in the afternoon Eastern Standard Time if you want to catch me live. Not always those times, because I do have a life and I travel and stuff like that. So, but I do try to fit in about twice a day episodes, and I rant on about various issues in nutritional health. So if you have topics you want me to address, you can definitely leave me a comment, message me. You can also email me, livinglowcarbman@charter.net. So guys, until we see you the next time, we'll see you then.